Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Hope everyone's having a great day because I'm sadly going to ruin it with this. Today we're going to be talking about everyone's favorite demon onion, Onision. Now before the video starts, make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. So for anyone who doesn't know who Onision is, let me give you a quick rundown of what this troglodyte is. Onision, or Onion Boy as I'll refer to him from now on, has been on YouTube since the Cambrian explosion of life. Along with other unintelligent life forms they spawned from the depths of hell, he started to do what he did best. Nothing. Because he sucks at everything. But he's dabbled in the field of English literature. English literature. He's not very good at it, and I'm just here to dunk on him and have a couple laughs. Don't take anything I say too seriously in it, and let's get started. Also, this is only going to be the first chapter of his newest book. If you want to see his other 3 books, I suggest checking out a YouTuber called Strange AEONS. She's made these very long but very comprehensive videos, and they're always fun to watch. Anyways, let's get started. Without further ado, let's start with the first chapter, Sunlit Shittown. The bed was stripped of its blankets and the top sheet. The creaking of the floorboards was audible under his weight as he slammed into Olivia's ass. Jerry, a balding, curly-haired, black-mustachioed Italian man, weighed around 250 pounds at a modest 5'8", had found himself in a superficially fortunate relationship for his less-than-desirable characteristics. Jesus Christ, you are so fucking wordy. Olivia, a 23-year-old with tight abs, golden blonde hair, C-cup breaths, and a look in her eyes of unwavering deviance, and had, for once, found herself fucking a man that, for all his age, was very well could be her father's best friend, had she even known her father. Whew, Jesus Christ, that was an exhausting first paragraph. I feel like just paying attention to the way Onision described Jerry and Olivia, he is trying to immediately sexualize Olivia and trying to because the way that he describes Jerry and Olivia are very different. But maybe I'm looking too much into this, or maybe I'm not. "Oh, I'm gonna come in ya," Jerry said hoarsely. Olivia glanced over at the glowing red numbers on the alarm clock, vastly underwhelmed by its thrusting. She had checked the time just before they had begun, 2 minutes ago. She'd written it down just before he drunkenly smashed his lips to the corner of her mouth for the first time that night. Stifling a sigh, she reciprocated with a forced one. "Oh, fuck, Jerry, boom!" He thrusted twice more before he collapsed over her back, pinning her to the mattress. His sweat trickled down the sides of her hips, dotting the white sheets an off-putting yellow. "Again," she wheezed. Jerry only mumbled incoherently in response on the verge of sleep. She groaned, pushing him. "Get off me, Jerry!" He didn't move and continued to mutter gibberish. His arm was within reach, and she didn't hesitate to turn her head to sink her teeth into his meaty forearm. "Why'd you do that, ya bitch?" he yelled, throwing himself off the bed, cradling his arm and throwing her a glare. "You're such a piece of shit, Jerry." Oh god, this voice is getting a little hard to do. She hissed, rising from the bed and slamming the bathroom door behind her. It was a mess in there. It was a mess in the bedroom. Everything around Jerry was just one giant mess. Okay, thoughts on the first page. I already hate this. What the fuck is going on? Apparently, Olivia's just meant to be like this depressing sex object that Jerry can exploit, but I have a feeling that if Olivia existed in real life, that Onision would try to do what he always does and try and exploit her for his own gain. My opinion. But let's move on. She sat down on the porcelain throne and let Jerry's mess dribble out into a stained toilet bowl. Before her was a shower in all of its stained groat glory. She grabbed the cheap plastic shower curtain and screamed an expletive into it. Jerry didn't hear her. He couldn't. He was already asleep, preparing to return to the same shitty job he went to every day, and the nightly fucks that made it bearable. He had been doing this all for weeks, with Olivia as his current bedmate. Olivia's makeup had been smeared across her face, thanks to Jerry's uncomfortably sweaty palms clumsily hooking her mere minutes ago. Thankfully, the only taste in her mouth was the aftermath of Jerry's earlier Cheeto binge, but she still spat into the tub for good measure. Purging any trace of him from her body had become a habit. Jerry and Olivia had first crossed paths a month or 2 previously, when he had catcalled her on her job. She had worn a slim fit slacks and he had held a stop-go sign. Let me restart that. Jerry and Olivia had first crossed paths a month or two previously when he had catcalled her on the job. She had worn slim-fit slacks and had a slow style, the glamorous life of a construction site worker. She wore snug pants and walked past him, skinny jeans, and he hollered her an invitation to fuck her. As it were, he hit the jackpot with his 5'3" knockout with daddy issues that had left a Jerry-shaped hole in her soul. Ugh. Jerry used her panties as a... Not Jerry. God, I am paying so little attention to this story, but it's so funny and kind of disappointing to read all of this. Olivia used her panties to make a makeshift stopper, towing the hot water on. In bed, Jerry snored on, still cradling his bite-marked arm while Olivia stared into the crack-tiled wall, imagining herself to be anywhere else with anyone else. She hadn't considered herself mom material, but she didn't take birth control. She didn't want to be with Jerry, but she also didn't want to go without feeling desired. She wanted to matter to someone, to anyone, to know that she was good enough. Jerry served that purpose. He begged for her body unlike anyone had prior. No one had been as honest as he had about how she made them feel. So lost in thought, hunched over in the steamed tub, only to realize the water had risen above her nose and mouth before she inhaled. She lurched up, hacking and coughing, sinuses burning. Back to present reality, she looked around her surroundings and remembered where she was. Hell, she could even smell his unwashed stench from her skin. Fuck! It was morning. Olivia laid on the red and tan checkered retro couch Jerry had gotten passed down from his evicted 90-year-old dementia-suffering roommate. Okay, wordy's fuck. As she slowly woke up, she felt the sun peering through Jerry's dreadfully dusty brown curtains. Olivia could hear the birds chirping from the outside thin trailer walls of Jerry's humble abode, which brought a slight smile to her face. There is always a silver lining even in a shithole trailer park like the one Jerry had no problem living in. Olivia stood up to go wake Jerry. She had assumed he was late for work, as he had normally left the house before the sun even came out. Construction workers had the worst schedules, but Olivia liked it as it meant she could only really see Jerry when she wanted to feel wanted. Spending most of her days out and about or watching cartoons on his old shitty second-hand TV. The closer Olivia got to Jerry's room, the stronger the smell of shit and piss became, a scent she didn't remember from the night before, as Jerry hadn't decided to pee on her face this time as he had so many times before. Oh, gross. That's fucking disgusting. What the fuck is wrong with you, Onision? Like, ugh. It was just another kink she had to put up with, and all the crippling void that grew within her every day she lived without a stable father figure in her life. Okay, so we're really establishing that Olivia has 0 father figures in her life, and due to this, she's become very easily exploitable. So Onision is trying to create his perfect woman. That's nice. The door creaked open as she pushed it open, unleashing a wave of odor much stronger than before. Olivia looked up Jerry's unmolested till dawn on her that Jerry's white underwear wasn't as white as she'd remembered from the night before. Jerry had shit himself in his sleep, and naturally Olivia let out a screeching, "What the fuck, Jerry?" Yet to only an audience of silence as Jerry remained quiet and still. "Jerry, you shit your fucking pants. Did you piss yourself too?" she yelled as she kicked him in the side with her grayed, dilapidated rabbit slippers. Jerry's pale skin looked bluer than Olivia had seen before. His body made an unexpected sound from her kick, and his physical stance appeared stiff. Olivia yelled, "Jerry, don't tell me you're freaking dead." She chuckled to herself. Jerry's eyes were open. He hadn't even noticed that she looked at him directly in his face. Leaning over with a smile on her face, Olivia gazed into the eyes that wasn't matched with a pillow to see not only that it was staring past her, but remained immobilized, not to twitch or to shift, only glass emptiness. That was an entire paragraph that you said nothing. You literally said, Jerry looked like he shit and pissed himself while he died last night. God, this is so goddamn exhausting to read. How can anyone put up with this crap? Okay, a couple more paragraphs and then we're done. Olivia stood up wearing a slightly less confident smirk than before. She stared at the plastic wood panels on the wall as it sank in what had happened. She was the last fuck of a freshly deceased man. Jerry was gone. As Jerry's body was hauled away by a police officer, Olivia asked... Let me restart that. As Jerry's body was hauled away, a police officer asked Olivia numerous questions, specifically about her relationship to Jerry and what they both ate the night before and whether or not he did drugs, if he had any medical conditions such as sleep apnea. That's not how you spell sleep apnea. And mentioned numerous other mundane points paraphrased from checked boxes he had to murmur on his standard report. Olivia hadn't cried. She hadn't even reacted beyond a demented twitch here and there. The officer's voice shattered through Olivia's mind as if the day dreamed about blobs of absolutely nothing. Miss, I'm going to be in touch with you if you have any questions. You'll hear from me regarding the autopsy if anything abnormal comes up. Please don't disconnect your phone or otherwise make yourself unavailable. Olivia remained unaffected and just mumbled, thanks. She twirled her hair in an endless loop, still zoning out from her mind, constantly lost into the room of meaningless green and gray warm blurs. Olivia looked down at her shaking hands to see multiple cards from multiple people. She had been so out of focus, not realizing how many people she had spoken to since she called the police. There were, of course, cards from mental health, a card from a police officer she just spoke to, a card from the morgue, and others she didn't even bother to identify. Dropping the cards on the floor, Olivia walked out of the house, half-heartedly swinging the keys on her way out of the trailer and now better identified as Jerry's coffin. Olivia looked around the trailer park to see a little Native American boy playing in the streets with his half-deflated basketball. Olivia stared at the boy for about 10 locked eyes with her. He smiled with a full-toothed grin, lifted his head to block the sun from his eyes, and yelled, "Hey lady, did you kill Fatso Mario?" Olivia smirked slightly and replied without hesitation, "How about I cut you at the waistline with my eyebrow scissors and lynch you with your intestines from your daddy's roof, little boy." What the fuck? What the fuck is wrong with you? God. What the fuck is wrong with this entire book? The native boy screamed in horror and tried to run back into his house, only to step on a half-deflated basketball, causing him to fall on his face, knocking out his front teeth. Olivia stared, her smirk now removed, listening to the boy's morbidly obese mother stumble out of her trailer only rented 3 spots down. The wind began to blow through the trees, knocking Olivia's blonde hair into a beautiful streaking dance. The little boy laid on the cement, knocked completely out as the boy's white mother looked up at Olivia. Sobbing and screaming, she broke eye contact with Olivia and dragged the little boy inside. Such an eerie thing, seeing a mother's cries, waving in and out of the wind to fill Olivia's ears. Olivia sat down in Jerry's station wagon with a foam green and renewed wood panels running down the sides. She turned the engine on as the AM radio station played an Elvis song Olivia had never heard before. Olivia wasn't happy about what happened to the little boy. She didn't want to stick around to deal with the consequences of what she had said to the boy. The trailer park would not see her again. The sun reflected violently off of Olivia's car into the eyes of everyone who saw her leave the park in the morning. She was headed into the town. Elvis went with her. Okay, this book is so goddamn morbid. I can't believe how, viscerally uncomfortable I am reading all of this. I don't know, maybe it's just my own personal reading preferences, but I don't need an entire paragraph describing a dead guy who shit and pissed himself. Or I don't need 5 sentences describing some native kid knocking his teeth out because he tripped on a ball. What the fuck is wrong with you, Onision? Well, aside from literally everything, but Jesus Christ. Overall, I think Olivia's an interesting protagonist. I think if Onision had even a hint of writing talent, he would be able to make Olivia go through some kind of interesting character arc. But as evidenced by his past ways of writing female characters, this is just a reskin of all his previous female characters. Honestly, Onision hasn't developed as a writer. I'm pretty confident in saying that, because Olivia just feels like she's got daddy issues and mentally ill and needs big, strong, tough man in this equation, Onision, to fill the daddy issues shaped hole in her life. Overall, 0 out of 10. Don't read this goddamn book. Adios. Peace out. Thanks for putting up with my bullshit. Make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next video.